Imagine a world where every smile, every Instagram caption, every perfectly staged photograph hides a carefully constructed secret. For years, Meghan Markle was painted as the modern fairy tale, a struggling actress rising to fame, a self-made woman stepping into royalty with grace, empathy, and elegance. But beneath that polished exterior, whispers began to emerge, quietly at first, until they could no longer be ignored. Samantha Markle, her own sister, had been telling the world a story that few were willing to hear, a story that challenged the carefully curated timeline, the flawless public image, and even the very age of the woman who would one day become a duchess. For years, Samantha's warnings were dismissed as jealousy, bitterness, irrelevance. Yet when old magazines, hospital timelines, and family photographs were pulled from the shadows, a different truth began to emerge, one that suggested Meghan's story might not add up. Tom Bower once said, "Look, we all laughed at Samantha, and she was right. Everything she said has come true." And that truth starts with the numbers, the math of birthdays, the sequence of milestones, the timeline of a life edited for public consumption. Every birthday post, every turning 40 photo shoot suddenly seemed suspect. What if the candles on the cake were counting down the wrong years? What if the carefully crafted royal narrative was, in fact, a performance of a life rewritten? Samantha and her father, Thomas Markle, had been holding pieces of a puzzle that contradicted the public record. Birthdays that shifted, school photos dated incorrectly, family events that didn't align, all whispered the same unsettling question: what if the world had been shown the wrong Meghan Markle all along? The most striking evidence came from a March 1997 issue of 17 magazine, archived and forgotten until it resurfaced in the chaos of online speculation. There she was, Meghan Markle, listed as 21 years old, an adult among young women in a lifestyle feature. If the official birth year of 1981 were accurate, she would have been only 15 or 16 at the time, far too young to fit that description. Print, unlike digital media, does not lie. This single artifact became a smoking gun, shifting the debate from rumor to documentation. Suddenly, Samantha's insistence that Meghan had manipulated her timeline was no longer dismissed. The sister who had been cast as bitter now seemed prophetic, and the carefully cultivated public story appeared less like reality and more like a script polished for maximum appeal. The implications were immediate and dramatic. If Meghan had indeed rewritten her age, everything, from the narrative of her career to the story of her pregnancies, was called into question. When Archie was born, the world celebrated a miracle, birth at 37. But if Meghan were actually born in the mid-1970s, she would have been in her early 40s at the time, an age at which pregnancy carries increased medical risks, more monitoring, and longer hospital stays. Yet the public was shown a seamless, almost cinematic story. Perfect lighting, radiant smiles, minimal complications. Doctors observing the narrative behind closed doors raised eyebrows, noting that standard post-epidural care protocols had seemingly been bypassed, a detail that clashed with Prince Harry's own glowing memoir account. The contradictions didn't stop there. Whispers of Meghan's past as a so-called yacht girl began circulating, quietly at first, then exploding into viral conversation. According to Lady Colin Campbell, Meghan had navigated a world of private yachts, exclusive parties, and billionaire circles long before she ever stepped into the royal spotlight. Her rise wasn't mere luck, it was strategy, a masterclass in social maneuvering and image control. The yachts, the private jets, the elite summers, each photograph, each carefully positioned smile was part of a blueprint designed to transform a mid-level actress into a global figure. These revelations, combined with Piers Morgan's explosive live TV display of never-before-seen Soho House photos, shattered the narrative of Meghan as a struggling, humble actress. The carefully polished brand cracked, and viewers were confronted with a side of the Duchess that had long been hidden. The leaked photos, chaotic and messy in their glamour, revealed a woman who moved confidently through elite spaces, observing, learning, and networking, while maintaining an impeccable composure. Every party, every high society gathering, Every billionaire dinner was a calculated step in a climb towards something larger, something beyond Hollywood. According to insiders, Marcus Anderson, the global membership director of Soho House, had been a guiding figure, opening doors to circles that could reshape careers overnight. These connections, quietly forged and meticulously nurtured, positioned Meghan to step into a world she had once only glimpsed from afar. The layers of narrative manipulation extended into her public statements and selective disclosures. Long-form interviews, charity appearances, and magazine features presented one story, while photos, archived documents, and family testimony suggested another. Every reinvention, every brand adjustment, every carefully curated persona hinted at a larger strategy: control the story before anyone else can. And when leaks occurred, images of yachts, exclusive parties, or Soho House gatherings, the silence from Meghan and her team only intensified speculation. A PR machine that normally responded instantly now remained eerily quiet, letting the ambiguity fester, allowing curiosity and doubt to spread. Prince Harry's memoir inadvertently added fuel to the fire. Descriptions of Meghan's comfort within Soho House, her ease with the staff, and her intimate familiarity with the club conflicted with her public claims of infrequent visits. For the public, these inconsistencies were more than contradictions. They were cracks in the facade. Observers began connecting dots: a rising actress, elite social circles, yachts, private jets, and then suddenly a royal title. The narrative had been engineered, and even her closest allies and defenders could not fully account for the depth of her pre-royal social integration. As the narrative unfolded, it became clear that the issue wasn't just one of perception, it was of pattern. Early blog posts vanished, references to past relationships disappeared, and timelines were recalibrated to match the story of a modern, empowered duchess. Each edit, each careful omission, served to reinforce a single truth: the version of Meghan Markle presented to the public had been meticulously edited, frame by frame, from the earliest days of her career. Every yacht, every private party, every Soho House dinner became a shadow in the story, a ghost of a life that the public had been shielded from, until, of course, the leaks made it unavoidable. And then came the live TV moment that left millions reeling. Piers Morgan, holding a set of glossy, never-before-seen images, quietly displayed them to a stunned audience. There was no shouting, no smirking, only a deliberate calm as the photos revealed a pre-royal Meghan, moving confidently among the elite, her smile poised, her gaze strategic. Viewers realized that the humble, struggling actress story was, at the very least, incomplete. The atmosphere in the studio shifted instantly. Hashtags exploded, social media erupted, and even those loyal to Meghan had to pause and confront the contradictions before their eyes. The Duchess of Compassion, as she was once known, had a past that some began to describe as calculated, strategic, and carefully curated, a life that had been deliberately edited and perhaps rewritten for maximum effect. Every unanswered question, every unexplained absence, every deleted image fed into a growing narrative of reinvention and performance. It was no longer simply about yachts, Soho House, or leaked photos. It was about the orchestration of a life designed to transcend her beginnings, to reshape her identity, to construct an image immune to critique. And as each revelation surfaced, the lines between reality and performance blurred further. Was she truly the woman her family remembered? The one who grew up in Los Angeles with birthdays and milestones carefully documented by her father? Or was she the Duchess crafted in the crucible of elite social networks, with timelines edited, past associations minimized, and every public statement calibrated to maintain the illusion? Even the most mundane details, birthdays, pregnancies, memoir anecdotes, now carried weight. If Meghan's age had been altered, if her pregnancies unfolded differently than publicly stated, then the narrative of effortless elegance, of perfect timing, of cinematic recovery, was not just a discrepancy. It was evidence of deliberate construction. And in that construction lay control. Control of the story, control of perception, control of the world's gaze. The revelations from Lady Colin Campbell, from Samantha and Thomas Markle, from archived magazines, from leaked photos, and even from Prince Harry's own memoir, formed a mosaic that no PR campaign could fully erase. Every whisper, every image, every document seemed to confirm that Meghan's rise was not merely chance, but strategy. Every yacht, every Soho House event, every curated appearance was a step in a journey meticulously plotted long before the fairy tale wedding, long before the global spotlight, and long before the world knew her name. And yet, the story is far from over. Every new leak, every resurfaced photo, every subtle inconsistency adds tension, suspense, and drama. The world watches, debates, and speculates because once a life is edited, rewritten, and polished to this degree, the cracks, no matter how small, cannot be contained forever. Meghan Markle's story, carefully curated and deliberately presented, is now subject to scrutiny that her PR machine cannot fully control. Every revelation is a spark, and the narrative, as it unravels, threatens to ignite a fire that could illuminate secrets long hidden, rewriting not just public perception, but perhaps even the legacy she hoped to leave behind. The next layer of the saga begins with the internet itself, relentless magnifying glass scrutinizing every frame, every pixel, every detail of Meghan Markle's past. Once the Soho House photos went viral, a tidal wave of digital detectives emerged, piecing together timelines, tracing flight manifests, connecting social media posts that had once been scrubbed or quietly deleted. What was once a carefully controlled narrative, a life of struggle, empowerment, and royal destiny, was now a jigsaw puzzle with too many missing pieces, each absence as telling as the evidence in plain sight. The yacht rumors, whispered for years in gossip columns and shadowed corners of social media, resurfaced with a ferocity that made even the most hardened royal commentators pause. Photos allegedly showing Meghan aboard luxurious yachts, surrounded by men with the world's wealth and influence at their fingertips, were scrutinized frame by frame. Each sunset, each champagne flute, each fleeting glance seemed to hint at a world meticulously curated, a life in which networking was as much a sport as any Hollywood audition. Lady Colin Campbell, ever the provocateur, had fueled this fire with her interviews, each word dripping with insinuation, each claim framed to maximize tension. She called Meghan the Duchess of Deception, a label that ignited global conversation and prompted furious defense from Meghan's supporters. Yet, the more the public dug, the more patterns emerged. Yacht trips aligned suspiciously with career milestones. Exclusive parties in Monaco, Dubai, and the Hamptons seemed to coincide with opportunities that propelled Meghan into the very circles that would eventually make a royal introduction not just possible, but inevitable. Was this coincidence? Or was it design? Lady Colin insisted it was strategy, a meticulously plotted climb orchestrated over years, every move serving a larger purpose, every smile an audition, every handshake a calculation. Meanwhile, the fallout on live television added a visceral, almost cinematic layer to the story. Piers Morgan's broadcast didn't just leak photos, it shattered an image. As he held each glossy print before the cameras, the studio lights casting their sterile glow, viewers were struck by the contrast between the Meghan of these images and the Meghan who had graced magazine covers, TED Talks, and Oprah specials. There she was, laughing among the elite, poised in settings of luxury and privilege, her expressions confident, her body language unmistakably at ease in spaces most could only dream of entering. The cameras didn't lie. The photos spoke louder than any carefully crafted press statement. And yet, no rebuttal came. Not from Meghan, not from her PR team. Silence, deliberate and deafening, became a statement in itself. Every second the images circulated without denial allowed the public to draw their own conclusions, feeding a growing narrative that the Duchess's rise had been less organic than previously portrayed. The whispers of connections and influence grew louder as well. Names that had long been footnotes in society pages suddenly gained weight. Marcus Anderson, the ever-present Soho House guide, became a focal point. His proximity to Meghan, coupled with his access to exclusive events, suggested not mere friendship, but a guiding hand, a shadow mentor navigating the labyrinth of elite social circles. According to accounts, Marcus's introductions and strategic positioning had helped Meghan move seamlessly from one exclusive network to another. From Toronto to London to Los Angeles, each relocation coincided with new opportunities, new alliances, and new doors that opened seemingly at the perfect moment. The implication was chilling. Someone within her circle had the knowledge, the power, and perhaps even the intent to manipulate public perception while orchestrating a trajectory that would culminate in royal marriage. The drama extended beyond yachts and clubs. Prince Harry's memoir, Spare, while ostensibly a personal account of love and family, inadvertently revealed details that reignited public curiosity. Descriptions of Meghan's comfort at Soho House, her discreet meetings in private corners, and her intimate familiarity with staff contradicted years of public statements minimizing her presence in such spaces. Readers began connecting the dots, a rising actress embedded in elite social networks long before she met her prince, enjoying access that no ordinary Hollywood actress could afford, surrounded by individuals capable of opening doors far beyond her reach. These details, when combined with leaked photos, suggested a trajectory less determined by fate and more by calculated social maneuvering. As the narrative thickened, patterns of reinvention became impossible to ignore. Early blog posts, once vibrant chronicles of a young woman's ambitions and reflections, vanished almost overnight. Relationships and friendships quietly disappeared from public view. Selective storytelling and strategic editing became hallmarks of Meghan's public persona, reinforcing a narrative of empowerment, humility, and struggle, while erasing inconvenient truths. The repetition of this process over years hinted at more than image management. It suggested a deliberate, ongoing project of self-reinvention, a careful choreography designed to ensure that every public encounter, every photograph, every interview reinforced the story she wanted the world to believe. And yet, the leaked images acted as a counterpoint, revealing a parallel narrative, a young woman confident, poised, and strategic, moving in a world of influence and privilege, mastering the subtle arts of networking, observation, and opportunity. This was not casual socializing. These were calculated steps, deliberate appearances designed to position her advantageously, to ensure access, to cultivate relationships that would later prove pivotal. Every party, every dinner, every private conversation became a building block in a larger architecture of ambition. The Duchess, who spoke of empathy, equality, and humility, had, in her earlier life, demonstrated a capacity for calculation, observation, and strategy that rivaled the most seasoned social climbers. The tension escalated further when the narrative intertwined with family revelations. Interviews with Thomas Markle and Samantha Markle exposed fissures and contradictions that had long been hidden. Birthday timelines that didn't align, school photos with inconsistent dates, and family recollections clashing with public statements created a web of doubt. These details, mundane on their own, became explosive when juxtaposed with the carefully curated public image. It was as if each fragment, each contradiction, each vanished record served to underline the same truth. The story of Meghan Markle, as the world knew it, had been carefully sculpted, and the reality behind the sheen of glamour and royal titles was more complex, more deliberate, and more calculated than ever imagined.